Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome. This is Andy Marino with the AME Food Testing Show. Today's guest is Bill William Jaspers. His experience is listed in our outline today as his education has 2 Bachelor of Science degrees from the University of Minnesota, St. Paul. The first is in food science, and the second is in plant and animal protection. The latter bachelor's is a combination of entomology, plant pathology, agronomy, and soil science. His experience is broken down into 3 areas: quality assurance management in several food production companies, food safety consulting in the U.S. and Canada, inspecting over 1,500 food facilities, including cold storage, warehouses, grocery distribution centers, grocery stores, many different types of food manufacturers, including salt mines, meat plants, poultry processors, bakeries, dairies, canneries, aseptic operations, seafood processors, and hotel kitchens, airline caterers, and food packaging manufacturers. Bill is also a former public health inspector for 3 public health departments, conducting more than 9,000 restaurant inspections. Also, he's conducted plan reviews for new and remodeled facilities. He's issued citations and served as an expert witness concerning food code violations. Bill has also developed a vendor approval program for a major meat company. It also included the construction and maintenance sections as well for microbiological commissioning and listeria control. Bill will explain that later. He's also recently worked with Dr. Pete Schneider of the Hospitality Institute of Technology and Management in St. Paul on a project to help ethnic food provider comply with FDA injunction. They were selling eviscerated fish over 5 inches. This is more than somewhat disturbing or disgusting. It's botulism, and the hazard is because the fish is dried or smoked. Dr. Schneider is an internationally known food safety expert recognized by the FDA and retained by the firm to help bring them into compliance. Let's see if we can welcome Bill to our interview. And Bill, are you there?
Wow, yes. Thank you for that nice intro, Andy.
Well, would you like to add anything else to it?
Oh, well, the term was uneviscerated fish. In other words, they didn't take the guts out of it. And since it's an ethnic food supplier, it was not uncommon for their customers to eat them that way because of the areas of the world that they came from. But it is a botulism hazard because the fish is dried or smoked.
You know, that brings up an excellent point about the formulation of a risk-based food safety plan. Can you review your thoughts on that? With all your experience having been a public health inspector and working for companies and more recently performing audits and designing systems.
Oh, sure. The formulation of a risk-based food safety plan, I'll use my most recent employer as an example. Dr. Schneider developed their HACCP plan, and the company was a fruit and nut company based in St. Paul. I was hired to be their quality control manager, and part of my duties were to review and update the HACCP plan. The company roasted 8 different kinds of nuts in high oleic sunflower oil and packaged the same with dried fruits and candies. They also did fresh cut processing of fruits and vegetables. They sold produce wholesale and distributed many food products. Now, with all of those different activities going on, there were quite a few different risks to manage, including potential salmonella contamination of environmental and food contact surfaces in the nut area, as well as listeria in the fresh cut area. And while I was reviewing the HACCP plan to see what needed to be updated or added, I discovered that the company had a 1.5-page recall program. Now, I thought to myself that it would be kind of tough to conduct an actual recall based on this, so I set about developing one for them. It took about 3 months, and right after it was completed, the Salmonella St. Paul outbreak in July, I believe it was, of 2008 occurred. This was initially thought to be on tomatoes, but FDA tested over 2,000 tomato samples and never found a single positive. We did get a break in the case, though, when a man in Denver got sick with the Outbreak strain, and it happened that he had purchased some fresh jalapeno peppers from an area Walmart not long before and happened to have a few left in his refrigerator. They also tested positive for the Outbreak strain, so that's how it was identified as having been on jalapeno peppers. Now, my employer did a very small volume in that item, jalapeno peppers, but it happened that we had 2 restaurants, each of which purchased 1 5-pound bag of diced jalapenos to use as a garnish. And one of the restaurants had 27 people become ill with the Outbreak strain, and there were no illnesses at the other one. Now, the traceback coordinator at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture identified my employer as having supplied the peppers to those restaurants. However, by the time this was determined, the product had already been consumed, so there wasn't anything to recall, but he also traced the source of the peppers all the way back to a specific farm in Mexico, and that was quite a feat considering all of the mix and match that goes on all the way along the line from the farmer to the processor, because many times jalapeno peppers or various pieces of fruit or produce or vegetables will get taken out of one lot, put into another, and they're not individually identified, so it makes it really difficult to identify where it came from, but he did manage to do it and did a marvelous job, I might add. Well, not long afterward, the MDA, Minnesota Department of Agriculture inspectors came in and did swabs to look for salmonella in our fresh cut area. It was very unlikely they would find it, though, since the room was kept at 85% relative humidity and between 38 and 40 degrees. Now, as any food processor who's been in the business very long knows, we took shadow samples right behind them. Anytime a regulatory agency comes in and takes samples, you need to be taking shadow samples right behind them. And I would say both MDA's and our samples were negative for any form of salmonella. Now, in late January of 2009, the PCA outbreak happened. PCA is Peanut Corporation of America. They sold a lot of peanuts all over the country, and it went in many, many products. Here in Minnesota, 3 deaths were attributed to salmonella-contaminated peanuts produced by PCA because King Nut Company had made their peanuts into peanut butter, and it went to a very high-risk population in nursing homes. As a result of the PCA outbreak, some 9 people died, at least 715 confirmed cases were identified, and CDC estimates that for every case we know about, there's 38 that we don't know about, so do the math on that. And roughly